Hello, it's Fred and Sheila McCoy at the Hatfield McCoy Museum. Sheila's behind me.
Hi, y'all.
And you can go to fredmccoy.com, go to the top of the page, click on the museum or whatever you want. This segment here is going to be Altina Waller, part 1. We're going to have several parts to this because I'm going to do short videos as to not to bore you and let you watch them when you want. And it helps me as I go through a shorter part of it. I don't have to read as much. This is Altina Waller's book titled Feud. And Altina, out of all the books, and there's several that I don't like over the years, but out of all the books, this would be number 1. And because Altina Waller is supposedly a historian, and she's a college professor. She says that she researched this book for 10 years, and I've always said, one of my favorite sayings is, I sure wish that she would have put some of it in her book, because this book is, and she calls her book the real story or the true story, and that's what happens to a lot of people. They title their books The True Story, The Real Story. I got news for you, and Sheila and I have researched this most of our lives. Nobody knows the true story, the whole real story. Nobody knows it. So when you see a book titled The True Story, The Real Story, correcting history and things like this, we try to correct a lot of the myths and things that's been said, and we do it through documentation and court records, Civil War records. Anybody that keeps up with Sheila's channel knows what we try to do. Not that we don't veer off every now and then, because sometimes there's no, you just have to go with the most logical reason or common sense. But Altina, out of all the books that's ever been written, probably on the Hatfield McCoy feud, the McCoys have probably taken more offense to Altina's than any book. And you'll see as we go through and we do little segments and we point things out that she said, you'll see why we say that. Altina's evidently an educated lady that knows a lot about social and economic change and things like that. You know, and you can take social and economic, that's what she contributes, the Hatfield McCoy feud, social change in Appalachia. And she contributes the Hatfield McCoy feud to social change and economic change after the Civil War. And again, you can contribute social change and economic. Everybody's got economical problems. Nobody's got enough money. Nobody's got a big enough house. Nobody's got
We're always building bigger barns.
Yeah, always building bigger barns. And we're never satisfied with the one we got. We want something else. And I seen a joke one time that said, marriage is like going to a fast food restaurant. You like what you got till you see what the other fellow ordered. And that's about like social and economic change. She could put that with anything that she wanted to. She could talk about Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. Cain's jealous of Abel and so forth like that. And that's what she tried to contribute her book. She wanted to write a book on the Hatfields and McCoys. So she says, hey, I'll throw in something that I know a little bit about, social and economic change, and I'll just put it in. Listen, people, the Hatfield and McCoy feud started over the Civil War. That's where it started. And it went from there downhill between Devil Anse Hatfield and Randall McCoy. Now, Altina writes in her book, and I don't want to get ahead of myself because it's probably going to be down through here somewhere, and I'll end up duplicating it and going over it twice. But she says that Asa Harmon McCoy was a traitor because he fought for the Union. And she may know about social and economic change, but she doesn't know about the Civil War. because during the Civil War, Kentucky was a border state, and the majority of Kentucky was Union. The majority of Kentucky was Union. If anybody was a traitor, there was no traitors. You fought for what you believed in at the time. And I'll go to this, and I want to discuss the Civil War, the Confederacy. But if anybody was a traitor, it would have been Randall McCoy and Uriah McCoy, my great-great-grandfather on the McCoy side. They both fought for the Confederacy. Preacher Ance Hatfield, my great-great-grandfather who was Justice of the Peace over the pig trial, he and Randall McCoy's brother fought for the Union. We're going to show you a board later on, but it's a totally separate video.
Yep, it'll be later.
And it's of Ephraim Hatfield, where we've got Ephraim Hatfield that's actually got muster rolls with the 39th Union Army in Kentucky. We're not sure. We're going to present it to you, but we'll also say that we're not sure if that's the Ephraim Hatfield that was Devil Ance's father or not. We can't say because there's two.
There's two of them.
But one of them was what, 25 years old?
One was 20-some, and the other one was like
the
40, 50?
59 or something.
Yeah,
It would have been
he was older.
Would have been Big Eve. And all we can do is show you the records and tell you, but one of them fought for the 45th, which was 25 years old. That wouldn't have been Devil Ance's dad, because Devil Ance was 21, 24, something like that when he
was
went
in his
in.
early 20s.
But going back to Altina, she says that Asa McCoy was a traitor, and that's why the Hatfields didn't like him, because he fought for the Union. Again, Preacher Ance Hatfield fought for the Union, the same company that Asa Harmon was in. So the Kentucky Hatfields fought for the Union, and West Virginia Hatfields, or at least some of them, fought for the Confederacy. But again, if that's Ephraim Hatfield, Devil Ance's father, that we've got records on, and we believe it is, maybe when we present that board, somebody can prove us wrong, but at least we'll put it out there for you. The Civil War, and then we're going to end this video. The Civil War, everybody thinks the Confederacy was about slavery. Do you know that Asa Harmon McCoy fought for the Union, but owned slaves?
Yeah.
In fact, they followed his slave to the cave. That's how they tracked him down.
Yeah.
His slave, Pete, they usually put another word in front of that. I won't, because it's the N word. They called him the N word, Pete. Mm-hmm. And that was not to be disrespectful. That's what they were called back then.
Back then, yes.
And but Pete actually took Asa's food to him in the cave, his breakfast, and they followed his footprints through the snow, and they knew where Asa was hiding at, and that's how they killed him. Asa fought for the Union, but he owned slaves. Randall McCoy, Uriah McCoy, fought for the Confederacy, but owned no slaves. But yet people want to contribute that battle flag, the Confederate battle flag, to slavery and things like that. That's not what the Civil War was about predominantly. The Civil War was about states wanting to control their own state. They didn't want the government telling them in Washington what they were going to do in South Carolina and Kentucky and West Virginia. They didn't want that, or Virginia at the time. Mm-hmm. It was more about wanting to be independent than it was about slavery. But we're going to go on. That's going to conclude this first segment. Like I said, we're going to make them small segments on these authors so we don't bore you to death. And we're going to end this video, and we're going to start right back with the part 2. Okay. And that way we'll just keep it going. And if you want to follow along on correcting some of these authors, some of the things that they've wrote into history, this would be a good place to do it. And we'll see you on the next one.
Catch you on the next one.
Like and subscribe.
I'm slipping, aren't I?